Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the Parks Department, I've asked several times and pointed this out several times, and recent email says that you wanted to meet with me next month, and it's a lot easier for me just to take you some photos. A picture speaks 1,000 words. This is what volunteer growth looks like. This is not a planted landscape tree. This is a volunteer. It's an invasive species that started growing several years ago, but because it's not grass, the landscaping crew just ignored it. This and the other ones in this video will eventually grow and then start displacing monuments, and in some cases damage monuments. If you do not have the knowledge on how to do this, within your Parks Department is the Forestry Division. They can send somebody over and walk you through and show you what's an invasive, what is not an invasive, and what's the proper way to take care of it without mass spraying. Trimming it down will not kill it. It will just make it grow bigger. This is a privet. Privet is an invasive species. These are going to be an Oakwood annex. This, again, you can see this, they grow like weeds. These volunteers are growing all around this enclosure, and eventually it will destroy the historic fabric, meaning the fencing and the monuments. Some of these were taken last year. Again, a volunteer tree, hackberry. A lot of this stuff is spread by birds. Birds eat seeds. They poop the seeds out while they're sitting on the monuments, and the things grow, and your crews just ignore them. If it's not grass, if I can't mow it, if I can't weed eat it, it's not my problem. Again, just overgrown material here. This is the Bergstrom lot. This tree has been growing for several years. It is a volunteer. It will eventually grow in such a diameter on the back side of this, it will displace this family monument here. Needs to be managed. Vines, this is over in the annex. You'll see another picture of this later. This is from July 10th of 2019. It still is not fixed. You guys are just letting this stuff grow. This is a crepe myrtle. This is in the south end of Oakwood. There's historic fencing right here. It's growing up in between the fencing. It will destroy the fencing. It needs to be clipped out. The roots need to be killed. Again, another hackberry here. You can drive by. It doesn't take rocket science to drive by and see these things. The ground supervisors should be able to go through here and make a list of things, spray them orange, put an orange tag on them, without being very careful not to get anything on the monuments. Perhaps you get one guy who's on light duty. Again, this is typical. This is up in the upper section of number 4. This has been cut back several times, but it's growing around the roots. This is a bed sled here. This one to this side's intact. The one to the right, a seed got down in the crack, and now it's growing, and you can see it's blown out this side. The lid is going this way. This is typical of how a volunteer can destroy a monument in just a few years, left unchecked. Again, a lot of Mustang grapes and vines. This isn't poison ivy, but you do have poison ivy out there. Goes back to training. Your people need to be trained in landscaping things other than mow and blow. Cut, mow, and blow. That's something a 16-year-old does. These family monuments at one point had things for bushes in them. It will do exactly what it did to the other one. This will get down in there, it'll find the weakness, and it'll bust this thing apart. What is your standard of care? You don't have one. It's not published. This looks very poor. I know there's nothing for sale in these cemeteries, therefore you're not worried about it. Again, another invasive just coming out of a bush. Here's a bush, here's the invasive, here's the vines. This was taken just yesterday. And again, shrubs have always been a point of contention in the cemeteries. The families plant them, they walk away, they don't maintain them. And then big volunteer trees grow out of the shrubs. over in here, back here, back here. You have to get down to the bottom of the shrub and cut this thing off and poison it without damaging the shrub. I'll come teach you if you want. Again, volunteers. Most of this is over in the annex. Doesn't take long, gentlemen, ladies. Walk through and you can see this. Train your staff to look at it. They can get some flagging tape, flag it, and then you can have one person who specializes in this if you need to. Again, this isn't a planted tree in a pot. These are all volunteer growth. This is the one I showed you before. Now it's completely overgrown. It's going to engulf this thing and it will damage that beautiful monument. All right, we're back to the beginning. That should make it very simple, ladies and gentlemen. This is what volunteers look like. You need to address them. It's part of your standard of care.